Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors coming to you with a rebound relationship series titled Understanding Relationship Failure 10 Reasons. This is going to be a collective lecture, and it is divided into multiple videos. So, you will need to listen to the first part, the second, the third, and so on. So, understanding relationship failure is important because if you don't take the time to self assess what went wrong with the relationship, you are doomed to repeat the same types of mistakes. Understanding relationship failure also points to the fact that most relationships fail oftentimes with our contribution, but it could also be that you just really chose the wrong person, or the person was just not ready to be in relationship, or the person could have chosen you as maybe a fallback plan until they were able to marry someone else. So I want you to take some time to listen to the full series. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and I will respond. Also, take some time to hit the subscription button and then hit the notification bell if you are interested in further videos. Thank you for visiting the channel. So this lecture is subject to fair use. So I will be commenting, criticizing, teaching, and pursuing scholarship using this lecture. Reason number 6, not the marrying kind, part 4, when child rearing is a factor. Male toxicity and female aggression may result from child rearing styles, which is a combination of parenting behavior and the child rearing environment. There are 4 styles of child rearing: authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and uninvolved. So authoritative, most successful approach, there's high acceptance and involvement, adaptive control techniques, there is more autonomy granting. Authoritative parents tend to be warm and emotionally fulfilling, drawing the child into a close relationship. There are also firm authoritative, they tend to give reasons for expectations and design teachable moments. Authoritative parents are competent, self-controlled, cooperative, and high self-performers. It's very interesting. It's the kind of relationship that we often see with the dominant group in terms of people who are minorities and who have been raised in maybe single-parent homes. Not all the time. It can still be 2-parent homes, but we see in relationships that, say, a black child or a Latino child might have with their parent would be a lot different from, say, a white child who has a relationship with their parent. Now, not all white children come from authoritative child rearing environments. Some come from very abusive environments. But it's interesting that you will hear a child, a white child, call his parent by his or her first name, or if they call the parents mom and dad, they might call the aunt, the uncle, by their first name. It's like they almost see each other as equals, even though the child is a child. It's clear that the child is a child. But it's almost like an equal standing. Now, let a black child or a Latino child or Asian child try that. Try calling their parents by their first name, or saying what, or calling an elder by his or her first name. We would probably be, slapped into the next week and not wake up for 2 more weeks, right? And I don't always want to put everything on a race level, but it is kind of interesting when I hear someone, now I'm talking about, it could be a black, it could be a white, it could be Asian, Latino child, talk about their childhood experiences, and white as well, and they talk about it from such a place of confidence, like they don't have, or they didn't have the same experiences that I had with my parent. It was a very sort of strained, toxic, hostile environment in my home, and that's simply because I believe my mother was highly stressed. She was a single parent, dealing with absent fathers, coming in and out. And so I don't know, I think to myself that you'll hear people talk about how they have a relationship with their mother and how it's a good relationship and they're friends and everything. And that is really a shock to me. And this is not to sort of, berate my mother or anything like that. She comes from a certain generation. She was born in the 50s, where they just did not necessarily have a relationship with the children, and so there is less autonomy granting. There are expectations that they give, but it's from a place of just strained negotiations. It's not like a sort of sit down, let's have a conversation, teachable moment. It's where's the belt? Where is the switch? I'm gonna whoop you, and then I give you a teachable moment, in a sense. Authoritarian child rearing, so low in acceptance control, high coercive control, low in autonomy granting. So authoritarian parents are cold, rejecting, critical, threatening. They use statements such as "do it because I said so." Children of authoritarian parents tend to be anxious, low in self-esteem, and self-reliant. Boys under this style are angry and defiant. Girls tend to be dependent, lack interest in exploration, and overwhelmed by challenging tasks. So I come from an authoritarian child rearing environment. I was the oldest. I'm the oldest child from a single parent, and we were all latchkey kids. So I had to do all the cooking and the cleaning. Now I cooked from a hamburger helper box, I cooked from those boxes, but I did all the washing, all the ironing. I had to watch my brothers. I had a mother who always had her foot on my neck in terms of her relationship with me. It was very hostile. And there was little interest in me exploring anything outside of that home. I don't remember dreaming. I don't really remember sort of wishing for anything else other than what was going on. I do remember exercising what would later become my gift and talents and everything. I remember lining up all my dolls and bears up against the wall, and then taking a sheet of paper and a pen and putting paper and pen in front of each of my dolls and bears. And I stood there and I was teaching them something. I have no idea what I was teaching them. Then later in my early adolescent ages, I would line up all of the neighborhood kids, tell them to sit down on the stairs, and then put pen and paper in front of them and teach them something. I have no idea what I was teaching them. Well, those were the first signs that I would later become a teacher. And maybe in something like that, I was exploring. But I did not sit down and think about writing. I realized that I could write when I was in high school, but there wasn't a lot of just dreaming and thinking about things and wondering about things. I was in too much sort of conflict. I was in a conflict ridden home. And so oftentimes when you see boys who are angry and defiant, it could be because there is an absent father, or if there is a father in the home, there is an absent mother, and they will sort of replicate. We talked about this in the previous audio part 3, that they will replicate the conflict that they feel externally and internally in relationships. With girls, your only objective as a girl, and remember, you are right after the generation of the 50s. I mean, of the baby boom, the baby boom generation, where you are just expected to find a good man, find a good job, go to the military. There are no other types of expectations. You come from a working class home, maybe middle class, a little bit or whatever, but your tasks, you are taught as a girl to learn how to keep the home. So all of those pressures are placed upon you very early, as soon as you can sweep a broom, right? For me, those were the types of pressures that were placed upon me. I'm not saying that it wasn't for my good. It's just that now I am not that interested in, say, having kids or having a relationship, especially with this last relationship where it just wore me out. And I would rather sort of just stick to myself, be with myself for a moment. Authoritarian child rearing, so children tend to be antisocial. In addition to unwarranted direct control, authoritarian parents engage in a more subtle type called psychological control. These are behaviors that intrude on and manipulate the children's verbal expression, individuality, and attachments to parents in an attempt to decide virtually everything for the child. These parents frequently interrupt or put down the child's ideals, decisions, and choice of friends. When they are dissatisfied, they withdraw love, making their affection or attention contingent on the child's compliance. As a result, children struggle with adjustment problems. They exhibit withdrawn behavior and aggression, and they tend to damage relationships through manipulation and exclusion. So if you have grown up in an authoritarian home and you have struggled in relationships as a result, it is usually because of what you were kind of taught as a child. So, somewhere in my development, I started stuttering. And sometimes if I'm talking too fast, I'll find myself kind of stutter a little bit. But for the most part, it was worse when I was a child. When my mother put so much pressure on me as a adolescent to high school, and I just began stuttering. And you don't really have a lot of individuality in a working class home anyway, right? Another thing that I realized is that last quoted sentence: when they are dissatisfied, they withdraw love, making their affection or attention contingent on the child's compliance. So that means they really don't love you. I understand that you have parents who will keep a home for you, work and everything, and we call that love. I call it manipulation too. It's just sometimes there are some people who understand that it's just wrong to give over their kids to somebody else to raise, right? They do have some kind of moral integrity about them, character about them, but they will punish you and sort of torture you They will be very toxic in their relationships with you, and you think to yourself, maybe it would have been better for you to give me over to somebody else. I don't know, but you see this a lot, that you make your affection and attention contingent on the child's compliance. Well, if you are raised in that type of environment, you will find yourself doing the exact same thing with an adult man, that you will make your attention or affection contingent on his compliance, or it will be the reverse. He will make his affection or attention contingent on your compliance. You have a lot of videos out here now today on YouTube saying, where the person is saying, don't validate your man, don't validate your woman. And all that is just a form of control and manipulation and making your love conditional. So unless you comply, unless you do what I say, because I said so, unless you do it, I'm not going to validate you. I'm not going to demonstrate any commitment to you. I'm not going to make life with me certain. You will never know if you are with me. And those are the types of relationships, if you have been in those types of relationships with a parent or primary caregiver, or it can be an aunt or an uncle or a teacher. If you have been in those types of relationships with those types of people from childhood to adolescence to early adulthood, I promise you, you will bring those types of strategies that you see here on this slide into your adult relationships. And like I said in part 1, ultimatums do not work for people who are not the marrying kind. But I'm going to add to it now, if they are the marrying kind, they may not work with that type of person who is just not going to give in to tantrums, right? They're just not, and they will withdraw, and they are not withdrawing to make their love conditional. They are withdrawing because they don't want that type of conflict in their lives. Permissive child rearing. So warm, accepting, but involved, overindulgent, inattentive, little control. Children grant their own autonomy, where they make decisions at an age when they are not capable of doing so. Children do not learn good manners or perform household chores. Children of permissive parents tend to be impulsive, disobedient, and rebellious. And then children tend to be overly demanding, dependent as adults, and less persistent on tasks. So, it's kind of interesting that here it is. If you look at the third bullet point, they grant their own autonomy, where they make decisions at an age when they are not capable of doing so, but then they turn around as an adult, be dependent. Okay, just like strange, because then you should be able, if you feel like you can make a decision, then you should be able to make a decision. But what it is that they like the freedom of being able just to exercise any kind of decision that opposes what their parents or primary caregivers are saying, or some authoritative figure is saying. They just like the ideal of saying no. You remember the first time when you hear like a baby say no? It feels so good for them, even though they don't really know what no really means in terms of a true understanding. It's just the word that they have learned, and the more you learn new words, you tend to want to talk them and tell people all the words that you have learned. I remember the first time I learned the word refrigerator. And it wasn't because I like to go into the refrigerator. I just thought it was a very interesting word, especially in terms of spelling it. And I learned how to spell it, and I learned how to say it, and I just remember it. And so when they are granting their own autonomy, it's simply because they are just filling out the words that they have learned. but they're not actually capable of taking all of those words and forming a focused decision to be effective. They have no ideal. And so now they have done that for so many years, in their 20s, in their 30s, and their 40s, playing around with words to the point that they have gotten to their 50s, and now they are dependent as adults. So permissive child rearing, if you see sort of like, it's hard to tell, because you want to say maybe a mama's boy is like this, or a daddy's girl, but I'm not quite sure, because sometimes they can also accomplish things. At the same time, I have noticed that they will be overly demanding, very dependent as an adult, and less persistent on tasks, meaning that they don't even know how to guide themselves to completion, to being effective. And so they will be less persistent on tasks, meaning that they jump from thing to thing. They don't have a sense of accomplishment. So that's kind of interesting, permissive child rearing. Uninvolved child rearing, so that's low acceptance and involvement, little control, general indifference to issues of autonomy. Often these parents are emotionally detached and depressed, and so overwhelmed by life stress that they have little time and energy for children. At its extreme, uninvolved parenting is a form of child maltreatment called neglect. Children of uninvolved parents tend to display poor emotional self-regulation and have difficulty with school achievement, depression, anger, and antisocial behavior. I think neglect is that very key word that we often have a hard time really addressing, because you think to yourself, you have two parents in the home and you got all the kids and they're all in a house, and you don't see those people, those kids being, neglected. We always think about the single parent who has 2 or 3 kids. They live in a housing project or an apartment or housing, a house, and we call that neglect. But you can be in a 2-parent home, middle class, even upper class, rich, and as a child still feel, abandoned and neglected. That there's more than one form of child maltreatment. You can be the type of person who yells at the child all the time. You can tell the person stay in their room all the time. There's more than one. You don't always have to hit a child. You don't even always have to yell at a child, but ignore a child, and that child will have struggles even later in life as an adult. These different child rearing styles are often influenced by culture and cultural belief systems. Punishment and discipline are reflective of cultural values. Variations also exist within socioeconomic environments. Child rearing must be discussed by considering multiple contexts, practices, and access to community support, as well as public policies. This means that child rearing practices should be considered in light of adult romantic relationships. The authoritarian child rearing style is most likely the style that adults exhibit when navigating romantic relationships. This statement, "because I said so," and we just talked about that a couple of slides, is an example of what underlies most problems in romantic relationships. Without always saying these words, people act them out in their body language and express their expectations in much the same way. And again, if you are still saying "because I said so," it is likely because you have not been challenged. So all of the people who give in to your tantrum and your pouting and your because I said so, you know that because I said so works with them. You know, it reminds me, I don't know if any of you like to go to like the pool hall, the billiards. And often in the pool hall, you will see a dartboard, sometimes in a bar as well. And the goal is to try to throw the dart and hit the center, right? And people try, some people can get it on the first try, but some people may have to take a few more tries, right, to hit that center, right? Well, you know, if you hit the outside of the center, you feel, you know, sort of defeated, right? And you feel compelled to keep doing and then once you hit the center, you yell, you go crazy, you slap hands with all your friends, right? Well, the same can be said of a person who is trying to play you or trying to do the tantrum game. What they do is they stand and observe you. They can be sitting down too, or you guys can be on the phone or whatever, but you know, just visualize standing and observing and listening. It's almost like they are listening or sensing the rhythm of your heartbeat, right? So they will throw something out, some stupid statement, and you're not moved by it. So they know that stupid statement wasn't the type of statement that would get you, you know, aroused. So they try again, but from a different angle. It could be from on a different day. It can be as a result of a current fight that you're having or something like that. So you try again. And somehow they're still really not moved. They might have flinched a little bit, but they're not exactly moved in the way that you are looking for. It's like you'll know it when you see it type thing. Okay, then you call them a name, you call them out of their name, you tease them or something like that, and then they get bothered. You still haven't hit the bullseye yet, but they are bothered enough to turn their head to look at you. Now you are growing in confidence. You can kind of feel them changing and feel them being controlled and pulled in your direction. And then you call them a loser or something, or you make fun of their love making, anything that really gets at their ego, and then they yell, they go, you know, they get all up in arms and everything, they flag their arms, and then they storm out the door. Now you got them. Exactly. Now you got them. Now you know you have hit that bullseye. You know exactly what it would take to get them. And so instead of being concerned about the person getting upset, you smile. You smile inside. You will feign like you care and you are sympathetic, but you will keep trying it because now you want the high that you had before, or that you got when they blew up like that. So because I said so, it's such an interesting stance, because there's more to it than just the words or the placing the hands on the hips or chunking things against the across the room to get their attention. There's more to it that you're actually after. It is this type of statement and parenting style that people use to control the relationship. In other words, adult partners and married people are essentially parenting each other and not engaging in a loving partnership. Parenting style and any of the other concepts discussed under Not the Marrying Kind may be contributing factors towards why a person decided to marry someone else. It is possible that you might have been the right person, but the partner decided to play the game of chance and marry someone else. Sometimes people will do this out of spite. You know this to be true because they will come back for sex while they are still married. It is also possible that you might have been the right person, but might have been suffering under immaturity and emotional issues. They decided to marry someone else because it was a less strenuous decision for navigating life. And that is very true. I can't stand all of that arguing and conflict and chaos and noise. And maybe it's because I'm in my 40s, but I didn't really like it back then in my 20s and my 30s. What the problem was is that I was emotionally sleepwalking. So even though I would sort of invite the chaos in, I just couldn't make sense of my own contribution to understand that it was due to what I was exposed to. And that's partly childhood, and that's partly me getting into chaotic, conflict-ridden type relationships as well. All right, so hopefully you were able to gain insight from this video discussion. Please like, subscribe, and visit. So please like the video, hit the notification bell for more discussions. I am re-uploading all of my audios, so I needed to make some changes to them. You can visit my website for more content at reginayfavors.com. If you want to send me an email, you can send an email reginayfavors@yahoo.com. Please also purchase the book. It's going to come out in spring 2021. So I had to make changes to my book to update it, and I also updated the title. So the original title was Bait, Hook, and Switch: Confessions of a Rebound Girl, and I have updated the title to Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships. So right now I'm still basically editing it, and I want to make it available in spring 2021. So thank you very much for visiting my channel, and I am Regina Y. Favors. Have a great day.